And we are live on YouTube. This is Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 17. And we are live in 3, 2.
The Complete Man Podcast.
Dang it, Complete Man Podcast. All right, just ignore that, YouTube. And we're live in 3, 2. All right, welcome back to the Complete Man Podcast with your host, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
Hey, Nathan, I'm doing pretty awesome, man. It's been a while since we recorded an episode, so I think it's been close to a couple of months here.
It's been a minute. We had a bunch of episodes in the backlog, so it was okay. But yeah, it's been a minute since I saw your face live on camera, man.
Yeah, so what's been happening with you?
Lots of stuff. Business is good. Personal relationship, I had one crash and burn over the last month or so. So that was, you win some, you lose some.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not going to ask for too many details, but, what goes up sometimes comes down.
Yeah, and maybe we'll turn it into an episode and everybody can laugh at my pain. We'll see.
Oh, man. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe not laugh, but maybe there's something that we can do to help out.
All right. We'll talk about that after this episode, and maybe it'll be an upcoming episode.
Yeah. So today we're actually going to be talking about something quite different, which is Wu Wei. And you were asking me, well, what does that mean, actually? And this is a core principle of Taoism. Some people call it Taoism. I think majority of people have seen the yin-yang symbol. A lot of people talk about the darkness and the light, feminine and masculine, positive and negative, right? Good versus evil. This is that core concept behind that, which is Wu Wei is essentially the art or act of doing nothing. It's essentially just flow throughout life. So, which is a little bit different than how we live our lives here in the Western society, because a lot of what we do is based on forcing and pushing, making things happen. And the core, again, principle behind Wu Wei is that when you force, sometimes you screw things up even more. Mm-hmm. And by learning how to flow like water, you're able to get through the challenges a lot quicker, a lot better, and a lot more effectively than trying to bash through it. So there's, I think everybody listening to this can use that and probably has experienced that in their life, where they've tried to force something and it hasn't worked out very well for them. Mm-hmm. Yet if you let things sit sometimes and allow things to resolve themselves, that can lead to a better outcome.
You know, the way I think about this is sometimes you'll be walking through the grocery store and somebody will walk up to you and they'll be like, Purdeep, how's it going, man? It's been so long. I haven't seen you in forever. And you're looking at them and you recognize their face and you can remember the last time that you hung out with them, and you remember the party and you remember the friend that introduced them to you, and you just can't remember their name, and it's right there on the tip of your tongue and you're trying to force it. You're like, was it Steve? No. Was it Bill? No. What was this guy's name? And at the end of the conversation, you're trying to force it the whole time and you're just like, hey, it was good to see you, man. We'll catch up. I'll talk to you later. And as soon as you walk around the corner and the guy's no longer in view, dang it was James. How could I not remember it was James? As soon as you let go, that's when it comes to you.
Yeah, it's funny how the mind works, how the body works, how the universe works. And that's exactly it. If you let things sit, sometimes things are brought to you rather than you trying to force yourself. This is something that we actually work with a lot of guys on, because people, when we talk about inspiration or motivation, a lot of people talk about, okay, how do you actually get what you want? And the first thing that people need is inspiration. And some people ask, well, how's that different from motivation? And this is my personal definition based on the experience that we've had and the research that we've done, is motivation can sometimes be like pushing, like you're pushing yourself, versus inspiration where you're actually being pulled towards something. And Wu Wei is a big part of that concept, where you're actually being drawn towards the things you truly want in life rather than trying to push yourself. And that's why inspiration is so important. And that's why sometimes taking a break and actually sitting back and analyzing and revisiting things after a period of reflection is actually better off. In fact, I actually just spent a couple of weeks in California, some for business, and I actually spent 4 days by myself restructuring what I wanted 2023 to be like.
Mm.
So the upcoming year with no influences, I was just there by myself. Spent a lot of time in gardens. So I went to this one amazing place. It's called the Huntington Garden in Pasadena, California, and they have a Japanese garden there. They have a Chinese garden there, and it's like you're in Japan and in China. It's just amazing. Ponds, trees, buildings. It's so cool, and you just feel this sense of serenity. And I did that because I needed to. How do I say this? Refresh myself. I had to reestablish myself. What do I want out of life? Because there were things in my life that weren't going as well as I thought they would be going. And this gave me a lot more clarity. And that's what sitting back and not forcing actually does, is it actually gives you more clarity to deal with certain things. Because sometimes when we're in the heart of it, right, we ignore a lot of things. We aren't able to see a lot of things because sometimes it's just pure adrenaline. Sometimes it's the grit. Sometimes it's being too focused,
Mhm.
and you don't get to see what's around you. So that narrow mindedness can actually hinder you as well. So I did that, and it was a great exercise for me. I encourage every guy to do that. That's one of the core things that we do with the guys we work with, is at least get them to go away for a couple of days with no external influences, no family members, nobody, just themselves, so they can actually do things and actually structure the life that they want to have rather than the life that they do have or believe that others want them to have. Because those external influences, if you take your family with you, you're not going to be able to pull yourself away from that.
Mhm. Okay, so that opens up a couple different roads that we can go down. I want to get your take on one thing in particular, though. Uh, one of the biggest influences that you've had on my life is meditation. You got me into meditation when I used to think, oh man, I'm so busy. I don't have a half hour out of my day where I can just sit there and think and not do anything. And man, I meditate at least twice a day now, and it's like probably my favorite time of the day.
Hmm.
And a lot of times in meditation, um, I kind of get that flow feeling, and some of coming out of meditation is where some of my best ideas come from now. Um, but it's so counterintuitive, and it's one of those things, like I said, I don't have the time, but now I'm finding the time that I spend doing it is some of my best time. Um, so I guess the question that I have for you is, why the difference in the two different cultures? Why the one? And I agree with you. The when you just kind of let stuff flow, stuff does start to see. It's almost like a magical force to the universe. Stuff starts flowing to you. Um, but then when I look at like the industrial revolution and the like the British Empire conquering the world, there's something to be said for the just hit the ground and make things happen. uh two completely different philosophies. I'm finding that I used to believe in the hustle and grind and make stuff happen that a lot of entrepreneurs push and a lot of Western culture pushes, but I'm finding I'm enjoying life and business, and most aspects of my life are actually going a lot better not doing the hustle and grind mentality. So uh, it's clear that there's results from it, but it's also clear to me that sometimes those results are not the most ideal results. And so I kind of want to get your take on why the two cultures go completely different ways, um, and the benefits and the drawbacks to both, in your opinion, since you've been able to live through both pretty extensively.
So I think it really comes down to one thing, which is balance. And if you take a look at ancient, whether it's Indian practices or Chinese practices or Japanese practices, a lot of this comes from balance. So if we take a look at, for example, the yin yang, right? It is push pull, right? It's drive and then pull back. And if we take a look at a lot of martial arts, the core of martial arts is balance, because when you are balanced in life and balanced in martial arts, it's easy for you to throw your opponent off balance, right? So
Mm.
martial arts, and whether it's wrestling or something else, the core aspect for every, you can say, technique is balance. If you have balance, more balance than your competitor, you have the advantage. So when you are absorbing that other person's energy, right? You're pulling back, you're withdrawing, you're not forcing. And then what you can do is you can actually take their energy and use it against them, and then use your energy plus their energy to push. So in life, the core is to learn when you need to pull back and withdraw and absorb versus actually push, right? And use force. So it's not that you never have to use force. You have to be persistent. You have to have grit, right? But it's when to use that and how often to use that. Because just like anything else in life, everything is situational. Everything is situational. You cannot use today's approach tomorrow, right? Because something will change, whether it's a minute change or a massive change, something will change. So you have to modify your approach. So it is just knowing what situation you are in, the timing of it, and when to actually absorb or push in your life. Because again, if you relate it to martial arts, that's exactly what it is. Martial artists are professionals at knowing what their competitors are going to do and actually anticipating their moves,
Mm.
right? And that's a core aspect of life as well, is anticipation, but also knowing that whatever may happen in life, it may not be 100% accurate. Like, you can try to anticipate something, but you're never going to be 100% right. So you're going to have to know and create different scenarios in your head to say, okay, if this happens, I react like this. If this happens, I react like that. And the difference between that, which is between Western culture and Eastern culture, is that in Western culture, we believe that we already know because we've read a book, we've watched a YouTube video, we've done something, we got a quick hack, and we already know how to do something or how to um, come up against a particular challenge. Which a lot of that is incorrect. Where in like Eastern practices, I'm not saying the Eastern culture hasn't changed, because it has. It has become more Westernized. But what they have realized is that knowing when to do what is based on experience.
Mm.
And that experience comes from living life and self-reflection. So just because someone has read a book doesn't mean that they're experienced in something, doesn't mean that they're actually going to react effectively to a particular situation.
Mhm.
That is the difference between the two cultures. Is the Eastern culture is more about learning and growth, not only through knowledge, through books and stuff, but mainly through experience, where the Western culture is more about quick fixes, hacks, right? Instant gratification. And that's the difference that I see between the two.
Okay. I love what you say about the balance, though. Uh, I have met and almost kind of been guilty of being the focusing all on the material, focusing all on the accomplishments, and just being miserable, even if I'm accomplishing what I want to get done. But then I also have friends that go down like the spiritual path and they dedicate everything to it, and they feel like they have spiritual connections and attunement with the universe, and then they're struggling to get their rent paid, and they're struggling to uh, meet the basic needs of their body in the material world. And it seems like it's very easy to go to one extreme or the other. And I love the idea of the importance of finding balance. I do want to ask you a question about all of this stuff. Um, I just recently read a report, and they were talking about your heartbeat and how your heart puts out an actual electromagnetic pulse that extends past your body. They can monitor, they can they can record or monitor the pulse from your heartbeat outside of your body. And I've seen things like where they put the things on your head and they can like read your brain waves. They can play video games uh, by just thinking. Now they have because it reads your brain waves outside of your body. Um, Gloves that they put on that they can read your brain waves with and control simple tasks on video games. It seems like parts of your body actually have an effect outside of your physical body. Your heart, your brain waves, they have a measurable impact on the world out, at least at the very, very, within a couple of inches to a foot. There's ways to measure things that are going on inside of your body. Does any of that play into this? The possibility that having this type of Tao actually has an impact on more than just what's going on inside of your head.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does. It's really interesting because I was with the gentleman who the story The Matrix was based off of, and
Mm,
had a private viewing in a very select group. And he went through each scene that was significant within the Matrix. And the Matrix is based on ancient Chinese practices, yin yang, Taoism, for example. Um, and so yes, there is a lot to do with that because everything is energy. Einstein talked about this. All the physicists talk about this. We are just basically energy, right, with space in between and some matter. So yes, our energy is a huge component of who we are, right? We just know of the average person just knows of two main forces in the universe that are that kind of unseen. One is electromagnetic, which is kind of like, different types of waves, but the other one is gravity, right? Gravity is another. And there's actually been said to be other types of waves out there, potentially 8 to 10, that are existing in the universe that even physicists don't know about, which means that there is a lot of pretty interesting stuff out there that may be connected to spiritual practices. But yeah, if you take a look at the Heart Math Institute, they talk a lot about brain heart coherence. There's a lot of science to show that there's more connections that actually go from your heart to your brain than actually from your brain to your heart. And there's a synchronization between your brain waves and your heart variability, for example, or your heart rate. And that, yes, your heart does emit energy just like everything else. So every cell in your body actually emits energy. And it's really interesting when we think about that. And why do people look at monks and say, wow, these guys can do some pretty incredible feats? Because they understand that concept. They understand that if they unify and focus all of their energy in a particular way, they're able to do things that the average person is not. And it's not that the average person can't do it, it's just that the average person is just too distracted and not focused enough and focused maybe on the wrong things. So, yes, and that's why when we are in the presence of other people that are calm without even having to speak to that person, there's a sense of calmness. Well, how does that actually happen? Right? How do you actually do that? And why do they sense people's energy? How do they know when one person is, let's just say, good and the other person is not so good? They have that sixth sense, and that sixth sense is that energy that we all admit as human beings and also absorb.
Mm. So to kind of bring this all back to the guys out there listening to this, um, Wu Wei, is that what it's called?
That's
Wu
what it's called.
Wei. Learning this, learning how to kind of let things flow, learning how to, as you put in the notes, the action of doing nothing, it kind of getting more in tune with your own energies, and I guess maybe having more of a conscious effect on the subconscious, maybe. How does this help? It was enough that you wanted to do an episode about it. How does it help the guy that's listening to this right now?
Well, it helps because the analogy that I use, and I was just on another podcast interview and use this analogy. Most of us are like a train. We're on this path and we're going full speed, and we might not be on the right track. And
Mm,
so we sometimes, and that's why we talk about wu wei, and that's why I talk about going away and actually just pausing for a few days, is because that just gives you more clarity to see if you're actually on the right track. First of all, it slows that train down, right? Because momentum is very important in life, but it can be the wrong momentum. And if you're not stopping and reflecting, because most of us are on autopilot day in and day out, we continue down that track and then realize months, years, decades later that holy crap, I just was, I was going full force, but I wasn't going in the right direction. And this is so common for men, so common. This isn't something that is rare; it's the majority. So stopping and reanalyzing, and this is a simple analogy. Just take a look at every stop, and that stop should be once a year, where you should pause, like shut down that train, right? Completely stop it, and take a look at the tracks in front of you and say, which one do I need to go down
mm,
this next year? The more often you actually do that, whether it's yearly or quarterly or monthly or weekly or daily, that's going to get you to the life that you want, the business goals that you want, because Same thing with business. If you're on a plan and you don't reevaluate that plan on at least a weekly basis, you're not going to get that business results that you're looking for, or you're not going to be able to get as good of the results as you could. You may be doing great, but you could be potentially doing even better.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of that, the self-reflection, sometimes even on a daily practice. I also know that having somebody as a wall that you can bounce ideas off of, somebody who's not stuck in the frame, somebody who's able to see your situation from a different perspective is invaluable. And that's something that you actually help guys with. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, maybe this particular episode sparked something in them that was like, hey, I need to talk to Purdeep about this. Maybe they've listened to a bunch of episodes and they're finally ready to take that step of having you come in and help them look at some of these things that maybe are not so clear to them, just with being stuck inside of the frame. It's hard to see the whole picture sometimes. What's the best way for people to reach out if they do want to have that conversation with you?
The best way is just to connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not, and just send me a message. Just let me know that you've listened to this episode and that you're looking to achieve something or you're trying to overcome a challenge, and then we can take it from there and just have a conversation.
All right, awesome. And if people want to check out more episodes of the podcast, where's the best place to get more episodes?
Well, check out CompleteManPodcast.com or YouTubeForMen.com.
All right. Anything else before we're out of here?
No, we're good. I can't wait till we get the next one out.
All right, cool, man. Until next time, I will catch you later.
Till next time.